Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Skees. I'm the Director of Media for TAPS. Thank you for joining us for this pre-recorded information session for 2022 Match Play Golf. I am joined by Brian Bunselmeyer, TAPS Executive Director, Robert Huckabee, TAPS Associate Director and Director of Compliance, and Steve Prudhomme, TAPS Associate Director. Also in the room, Steve Hohulin, our Athletic Director, and Will Dixon, who's helping us out behind the keyboard. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Brian, and we're going to get started.
Thank you for joining us for Match Play 2022. It'll be the second annual contest. We look to have many more. We're proud to have more teams participating this year than last year. We look forward to a great competition. Steve, tell us a little bit about the competition, who's coming and where it's going to be.
Okay, we start with the Platinum Showcase at Cottonwood Creek Golf Course down in Waco. As you can see, we have all the Group A and Group B teams that we have registered at this time will be part of that showcase. The Gold Showcase, which is the other boys golf division, will be at Canyon West Golf Course, and that is in Weatherford, Texas. Beautiful golf course out there, and both the Group A and B will be playing out there, and some of the teams have already gone out to practice, and so we're excited about that. And our ladies in the Diamond Showcase, they'll be at the Cottonwood Creek Golf Course in Waco. Let me move it on to Robert.
All right, thank you, Steve. Just go over some basics for the tournament. As with most of our golf tournaments, you can go to the course and a practice round if you want. Just reach out to those courses directly, make arrangements based on when they're available and when you maybe can get out there before the tournament. We're recording this a week out, so you do have some time to do that, but coordinate that with the particular course. For the 2 days of the event, range balls will be provided as a part of the entry fee. Lunch will be provided for the players and the coach. And then the coach will be provided a cart for the day, and then spectators can rent carts just like always at the course when they arrive that day. Let's go over the schedule a little bit. Steve mentioned our different categories and the pool assignments that we've made. Those are all posted there. Brian's going to cover that at the end about where you can go on the website to look at all that information. We'll keep that updated as any changes occur. The pool assignments were determined by the number of entries. Obviously, it's critical in a match play situation to keep the number of teams on an even number so we can match up as we go throughout the tournament. On October 3rd, next Monday, is our first day. Show up there by at least about 7:30. We'll have registration and check-in, and then our rounds of pool play will begin at 8:30. Those will be shotgun starts on both days. The second day on October 4th will begin again at 8:30. That'll be a shotgun start. For those who were at our tournament last year, you kind of know how this works. For those who are new, the shotgun start hole assignments, what we'll do is we'll group each of the matches with the number ones versus number ones, number twos versus number twos, and right on down the way. So your particular team will have 5 members. So from a coaching perspective, all your players will be within about a 3-hole stretch there. So that allows the coaches to go back and forth between the matches and keep up with how things are going. I'll explain that a little bit more here in just a little bit. Steve, talk a little bit about school rosters.
Yes, coaches and athletic directors, make sure that you go into rank 1 to put in your school roster. There'll be a golf eligibility roster, one for golf, and Kelly has put you into match play golf as well. So that should be available for you on the rank 1 accounts. Make sure that you've listed all your players, and it's a maximum of 8 per team that you can put down there to represent your school. So make sure those rosters, eligibility roster in first, and then also your match play roster should be there as well. Now moving on to the match rosters.
Okay, Steve, let's talk a little bit about what it's going to look like for coaches when you show up. As Steve mentioned, your school team can be composed of up to 8 team members. Only 5 will be playing in each round, but you can have up to 8, and you can swap them around if you need to. Each team must submit 5 players for each match. You'll list them, players 1 through 5 in order. You can change the playing order between the matches. Once you turn that in, you can't. You can substitute players for each match prior to the beginning of a round, but you cannot alter that lineup order for that match once it's been submitted. If you'll hop to that next page there, Will, this is a sample of what we used last year. It worked pretty well. What you'll do before each of your matches on those days, we'll have these there available. You'll come pick one up. You'll circle which round it is. You'll give us your school name, coach, and then who you're playing. Your opponent on that particular match will be playing 3 9-hole matches on day 1. You'll list your players in order. You'll take that. You can put them in any order you want. Typically, player number 1 is your number 1 or your best player on down to number 5, but that's up to you. We'll give you your starting hole assignments, and we'll match up the number 1s from each school against each other, number 2s, number 3s, right on down the line, and we'll have your starting hole assignment. So once we do that, you'll have this sheet. You'll hand it in to us. We'll make sure everything's in order. We'll give this back to you and send you out on the course, and then once those matches are finished, you'll write those results there at the bottom of that where it's indicated. For instance, if you played 5 matches and you won 3 and lost 2, then you'll have a 3 and 2. You won 3 and 2. If you lost, then you will have lost 2 and 3. Both coaches will turn those back into us, and so this is the format that we'll use throughout the tournament.
Hey, Robert, just sitting here looking at this, when we talk about win and loss, we don't just want to check. You actually want to know what the score was, right?
We do want to know the score. We want to know if it was 3 and 2. We want to know if it was 2 and 3. We do want to know that because we do want to keep up with it. Our pools are similar. Some of them are going to play through to head-to-head matchups on day 2, and some of them are going to play pool play all the way through. So we will need to know number of specific wins and losses, not just for that match, but throughout the tournament.
We also kind of want to track individual players, too. So if I was player number 1 and I won whatever the score was, we want to keep track of some of these could end pretty quickly, I'm assuming. So want to make sure that once it's won that we know how many holes they played and how many they won by. So, again, the other side of it, Robert mentioned it earlier, just remember that this is a blind draw. You don't get to see your opponent's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and, while you're making out your roster. So, Robert, both will turn it in blind draw, and then we'll combine. They'll go back out. Is that correct?
That's correct, and that'll take us to scoring. So if we'll hop on over to the scoring, jump into that next tab. Thank you, Will. Each player will keep their own scorecard. Once we send you out, you'll keep your scorecard. You'll play your 9 holes. Those will be turned into your coaches. So if I've got 2 schools playing each other in this round, the 2 coaches, they'll be there watching anyway. When all those matches are done, make sure the 2 coaches, they'll review the scorecards, make sure and agree on the final match results, and then you'll hand back into us that sheet of paper we were just looking at that shows the results that's verified by each of the coaches. That makes it easy for us to keep up with. Something that does come up, if a match is tied after 9 holes, you're allowed to play, and we need you to play 1 extra hole only to try to break that tie. If it's still tied, then that match is going to end in a tie. We do have to stay on schedule because we're going to go out for 9 holes, finish those, come back in, tabulate those, get the assignments for the next group, and then send them on out. So we do need to stay on schedule, and we'll have a tie that'll happen every once in a while, but that'll be the format that we'll follow as we go through that. Let's jump to some of the playing rules, Brian.
Basically, same as going into the spring. It's going to be the USGA rules of golf. In specific, the USGA match play rules, Rule 3.2. Again, we'll also have some local rules as you go through. I'm going to jump on that before I go back up to taps. So the local golf course, we're going to ask the pro before the first round goes out that morning. We'll ask the pro to get all the players and coaches together and go over local rules again. They'll also have that handout for you as coaches there. But just to make sure everybody hears the same thing at the same time, Robert and Steve, I think that's our plan, is to get the local pro to go over that. Going back to taps golf rules, they're pretty simple. The biggest thing there is spectators, where they can be, where they can't be, and when you can't coach. So we'll talk about that. Another thing that's going to come up is going to be rangefinders. We do allow any rangefinder that is truly a rangefinder to be used out on the course. Just can't use your watch or use your cell phone or whatever. Other than that, no electronic devices. Robert, does that kind of cover the playing rules as you see them before we go to coaching rules?
That does. That pretty much covers it. And like Brian mentioned, we'll have a short coaches meeting as we begin that first morning and send everyone out. We'll have our local pros there to help with any local rules, and then we'll be ready ready to go. Moving to coaching rules, we've gone through the schedule and kind of the format. You can refer back to that if you need to. Remember, under TAPS rules, coaches are allowed to coach from when the group finishes on the green until they tee off on the next tee box. So that's your window to do coaching, talk to your players. No coaching from any spectators. That's always the case. Rules and questions that apply. This is match play, and you do need to pay attention to those match play rules of golf. I think it's Rule 3.2 in the USGA rules of golf, because there are some differences. Obviously, you can concede a putt, you can concede a hole, and there are some things that will come into play there that are a little different than stroke play. And then, of course, you're keeping your score by hole, not by total strokes. Most of you are real familiar with that. This is a fun format. Last year, our coaches and players really enjoyed playing in this format. The other thing that will come up with regard to coaching and rules is if there's a question about a ruling in a particular group, what we would like to do is we would like to get that resolved before the players move on to the next hole. This is not like our stroke play state tournament where we want you to play 2 balls and then come in and get a ruling later. It doesn't work well in match play because we need to have a winner and loser on each hole and progress through the 9 holes so that we know how the match is going. We do allow our coaches, and this is very important, we'll cover it in the coaches meeting as well, we do allow our coaches to assist the 2 players in question of making a ruling. It's usually whether I get relief in a particular situation or what a stroke penalty may or may not be. We do allow our coaches to assist with that because it keeps play moving on. And the reality of match play is, remember, that particular ruling only affects those 2 players on that particular hole. So there's no necessity, like we usually have in a tournament, for a ruling to protect the rest of the field, if you will. It only applies to those 2 players in that match. We need that resolved and agreed upon before they move on, and then we know who won that hole. There's going to be a point in the match where somebody's probably going to be ahead and the match is going to end, so we need to know that as each hole occurs. We'll cover that in more detail in the coaches meeting, but just kind of get your golfers prepared for that as you get ready for the tournament and talk about it in advance. Keep in mind those match play rules are slightly different in several respects, and that's part of what makes this event so much fun. Water and food, I know we have some restrictions at our state tournament about, how you can or cannot assist your players. We've looked at the weather. The weather looks really good. Next week, we're going to be in the high 60s in the morning and low 90s in the afternoon, so it's going to be a good day for golf. The wind actually looks pretty calm at this point. We know it can change, but it does look good. From a water and food standpoint, we want the golfers to be safe, so we do allow you to assist them if they need some water or something. Remember, they're going to go out 9 holes, come back in, go out 9 holes, so it's not like an 18-hole stretch where they won't see anybody or they won't have an opportunity to get anything. We do allow a little latitude here because it does help our players and our coaches.
Robert, going back out to your thought about when you have a situation come up on a hole, one thing that we're saying is that the coaches need to be available to provide rules interpretations. They'll obviously have an opportunity to call you or Steve, call back to the clubhouse, and get a ruling real quick if we need it. Hopefully we'll have a rules official be able to travel around a little bit as well. What we don't want are parents serving as rules advisors, and I think that is the same as spring and stroke play. But coaches, the parents are yours. You need to instruct them ahead of time, even though if they know the rule, it's really a coach that needs to come settle that if the players can't settle it on their own. And then the other thing is that the parents are yours, and any players that aren't on the course playing are yours while you're there. So if you're going to bring a maximum of 8 or if you're bringing 10, everybody that's not involved in that match, even though they may be trailing along one of their buddies or whatever, they still need to follow the etiquette course rules or whatever, and just remember that they are yours. So if we do have difficulty, we'll definitely reach out to the coach first. I believe that's the best way it can handle. Is that kind of where you and Steve are?
Yes, that is correct, and this is true even at our state tournament. Anybody who's spectator or following can help look for balls. That they can serve in that capacity if a ball goes out in the grass or out in the trees somewhere. It does speed the pace of play to have somebody there to say, hey, that ball's right over here. Obviously, the player's responsible to identify their own ball, but spectators are allowed to do that. But other than that, they do need to stay out of the equation of the ones who are actually playing the round.
I think the big warning I give every time is if you're going to look for your own child's ball, make sure you look for everybody else in the playing group's ball. That'll help us go a little bit farther. Another
thing that is relevant here, and we'll cover it in the coaches meeting, the first day you're going to play 3 9-hole rounds, so you're going to go out and play, you're going to come back, you're going to play and come back. We do allow the players to be shuttled by anybody. That's coaches, spectators, whoever. We do need to get them out on the course. These are going to be shotgun starts, so we'll allow you to shuttle them out there, and then once they're done, shuttle them back to the clubhouse to keep the pace of play moving along.
You know, for the second annual, that means we got one under our belt. We're going on number 2. We are really excited to be able to put this forward. I think it's a great opportunity for those that love golf. I think it's an intriguing possibility for high school kids, and it also is a true team-based event. We're not doing individual match play. In this case, it's going to be team match play, so everybody counts. You can sub in as you need, like Robert said. If you've got 8 people there and you want to sub 1 in or 2 in, you can definitely do that. If you want to move them up and down the ladder, move your 1 and 5 or wherever they need to go based on their play, definitely want to do that. The biggest thing about it when we come out is we all want to say we had a great time. There was some great competition. And, Robert, from what you and Steve said last year, the camaraderie amongst the golfers and the coaches was high on the list too. So we definitely want this to be an event worthy of TAPS competition with honor. If you've got more questions, info at taps.biz. 254-947-9268 is our phone number. www.taps.biz is the website. Will, do me a favor, jump over there to www.taps.biz. I threw him a curveball here, so kind of shanked it out of bounds, but he's going to get there real quick. And www.taps.biz, click on the word athletics at the top, and then there is a drop down for match play golf. If you scroll down, we'll go ahead and click on it. When you go to Match Play Golf, anything that we do will be on the right-hand side where it says Tweets by Taps Golf. John's going to touch on that in just a minute. We'll also have everything else going up there. As you look at pool play information and registered teams and tournament results, it'll all be here on this page. So, again, www.taps.biz, click on the word athletics, click on the word Match Play Golf. It'll shoot you to the landing page for Match Play Golf. I'm so excited to be able to offer this opportunity as the executive director, and I'm extremely excited that we're going to have folks at both sites. Steve Perdome, Steve Ahulan, they plan on being with the Gold Championships. Robert and I plan on being at Cottonwood for the Platinum and the Diamond. John, take us on out of here. Tell us a little bit more about the social media so that folks can be prepared when they get there and when good things happen.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Robert and Steve, for this presentation today. A couple of things on media. First, as far as media in advance of this year's competition, we're going to have an episode of our podcast, Taps Talk, coming out this Friday that has interviews from coaches from last year's tournament. That'll be available later this week, and you can see links to that on our social media. Speaking of our social media, our main account for golf is Taps at Taps_golf. We're going to be posting results there. We're going to be posting updates, especially if there's changes in the weather or anything like that. So you're going to want to follow at Taps_golf for those news, for that news. As far as other media things, this is not one of the events that we can live stream. We just don't have the equipment or the time for that. But we will have a photographer on site one day each. I will be in Cottonwood on the first day, and I will be in Weatherford on the second day. Those photos will be made available later that week, and you can find links to it on our Match Play Golf page. You'll see a link there for photos, and it's also going to be available on our social media links as soon as those are processed. And it's going to take a couple of days to get that done, but those photos will be available, and those are free to download if you would like. And with that, we're going to wrap this up. This recording will be made available on our YouTube page. That's youtube.com/tapsbiz, where you can find all of our public meetings and webinars and training materials, so you can share this easily with anybody on your campus who needs to have this information. With that, folks, you have a good rest of your day, and we will see you next week.